Okay, so open up multiples of 10. That's not what I'm looking for. So you should be able to open up a Google slide. It'll look like this, have a bunch of slides. And for each one, you can kind of just click. It'll open up the text box and you can write in notes or answers as we go along. So most pages are going to have something for you to write, not all of them. And this is kind of the format we're going to be doing for this week. It's a little bit of a test thing. What I do want to warn you all about is right now is that some of this stuff might be super, super easy and stuff that you already know how to do. Some of this stuff might be stuff you've never seen before that is very confusing and difficult. So we're not going to have a test on any of this, but it can be really, really helpful if you do understand it. So please follow along. Do your best to at least try to understand what's going on. If it's boring, then I'm sorry. If you already know how to do some of these tricks. But this is basically my attempt to teach you guys how to think about numbers in a way that'll help you a little bit more later in math. So a lot of the time in math, we think of numbers as very like static. So, if you want to know the answer to 3 times 10, you have to memorize the answer to 3 times 10. There's no other way to do it. And that's not actually the case. So what I want to do is start kind of going over some basic skills in math that'll help you start to think a little bit more fluidly about how math works. Like I said, if at the end of the week, this week, all you get is a couple of assignments turned in and you have no idea what's going on, then ignore all of it. Don't use any of these tricks. That'll be fine. But some of this stuff can help you really like learn how to find shortcuts or easier ways to do problems going forward. So I think it can be kind of helpful. We're going to start off with multiplying by 10. So first thing I want you guys to do is just solve these problems however you want to solve them. You can use a calculator, you can do in your head, you can do them on paper, I don't care. Just in private chat, tell me answers to these 3 problems. Good job, Sawyer and Addie and Janie. Good, Carmen. On the first.
Wait, are we supposed to put it on the slide or private chat you?
You can put it on the slide too, but private chat. So I'm just kind of checking them as we go to see how people are doing with it. But yeah, these are some pretty simple problems for the most part. We're just 3 times 10, 7 times 10, and 4.33 times 10. I will say this is going to be the easiest day out of all the days this week. But if we look at these, we've got 3 times 10. Most of you have already gotten this. Turn it into me is 30. 7 times 10 is 70. 4.33 times 10 is 43.3. Now, there are a couple of different ways to do this, and I'm sure a lot of you already know the trick that I'm going to talk about, but most likely, or the easiest way probably, right, is to just open up your phone and type it into a calculator. But multiplying and dividing by tens is something that you can do without using a calculator ever. So what I want everybody to do right now is if you have a calculator in any form, turn it off, put it down, put it away, close the tab, whatever it is. No more calculators for the rest of today. That's the rule. All right. So multiplying by 10, we're going to talk about how to use or to multiply and divide by 10 by moving the decimal. So first question is, if you multiply a number by 10, what would you do to the decimal in order to actually solve that problem without having to do any real math? Tristan, what do you got? Got on mute.
I have the chat bar open, and when I press the space to temporarily open it, just like, yeah. You would move the decimal point back once.
Back one? Which, left or right?
Right.
Yes, you're going to move the decimal one place to the right. So
making the number bigger.
Move decimal to the right. So for instance, in this problem right here, we could just move the decimal one spot to the right. So now our answer is 3124.598. This one, we could just move the decimal 1 to the right. So now we have 0.1200332. But what do we do if there is no decimal? Anybody?
You don't.
I got it.
Jasmine, what were you gonna say?
You want it add 1, would you?
Nope, don't add. Well, you're gonna add something, but Tristan, what is it?
You add a 0 or a tens place.
Yeah, you add a 0. So
So if
the
you have a
decimal, the decimal in the
four-
whole number is effectively right here, and you can think of it as 547.0. This doesn't actually change the number at all, but that allows us to move the decimal one place to the right. So we get 5470. So the answer here is add a 0. So no calculator needed at all, obviously, for any of these. But we're going to make it a little bit tougher, obviously, because that's not all I'm going to teach you in an entire day of class. So I'll give you guys a second to make sure you have this in your notes so you don't have to come back to it later. With this stuff, if you do end up missing a day, all the recordings will be posted, so you can just take the notes that way. But do make sure that you actually turn these in so that I can give you credit for them. Also, Jessica, to answer your question, to be funny. Okay. Is everybody ready to move on?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, now dividing by 10. So dividing by 10 is the opposite of multiplying by 10. You all already know that. So my question is, when dividing by 10, how should we move the decimal to answer this quickly? Addie, go ahead.
You would move the decimal to the left.
Right, we're gonna move the decimal left. Now, here's an interesting question. What if the number ends in a 0? So for these problems, right, we can just really easily move the decimal here. Boom. Now we have a 0 point. How many is that now? 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. 4 zeros, and then a 4. With this one, we can move the decimal one place to the left. We get 1.2334. With this one, the decimal is effectively at the end, remember. So we just move this one spot to the left. We have 176.3. But what do we do if the number ends in a 0? Any ideas?
What is it? If it ends in a 0, you'd still divide it.
You're still going to divide, right? But if I move this decimal here, basically what I'm getting at here is if it ends in a 0, you can just cancel off the last 0. You don't need to do anything else. So here you can just cancel last 0.
And it just becomes 30.
Yeah, it just
No
becomes
point
30.
in
So
adding
the idea,
decimal.
right, exactly, Tristan. So you don't write out 30.0 because that doesn't mean anything to us. Like the 0.0 doesn't change it. So we just write it out as 30 is effectively what I was getting at there. But in general, yeah, all you have to do is move the decimal one space to the left. So that makes sense, right? Multiplying, we go to the right. Dividing, we go to the left. Multiplying right. Dividing left. Give you all a second to write everything down here, or type everything in, I guess. Any questions, or does anybody need more time?
No questions. No time needed.
Yes, I have a question.
What's your
Is
question?
that 4 zeros down there next, or is that
Yes.
5?
So our original number had 3 zeros to the right of the decimal. So now we move it 1 to the left. So now we have 4 zeros. So it's 0.00004. Also, for those of you that came in late, make sure you go into the Google Classroom, open up the it's multiplying by tens assignment, and have that PowerPoint going to take your notes on this. If you miss stuff, I can go back to it at the end. All right. Now, here's some interesting questions. We're going to look at multiples of 10 now. So we've looked at multiplying by 10. We've looked at dividing by 10. Now we're going to start looking at things with more zeros. So what is 100 in terms of 10?
10 times 10.
Yeah, 10 times 10, exactly. Right? So we just have 2 tens. Easy peasy. What is 10,000? Sorry, what was that?
10 times 1,000.
That's not in the number, or that's not all in tens. So make it all in tens.
10 times 10 times 10 times.
10
100
times
times
10
100.
times 10 times 10. It is
What you
100
do
times
is you
100.
just continuously move the decimal back one.
Yeah, you're on the right track, Justin. So it is actually 100 times 100, but you'll notice that we just turned 100 into 10 times 10. So now we have 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which is 100 times 100. Or if you want to look at it as 1,000 times 100, we have 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. So 1,000 times 10 is 10,000. Now, here's a question for you. How can we quickly figure out how many multiples of tens, or how many tens we multiply to get to a multiple of 10?
I say it,
Go for it.
knowledge and like a tens table, or
We don't need a tens table. We can do this
knowledge.
really easy. There's
Knowledge.
a trick. So look at this one. Janie, do you have an idea?
Count the zeros.
Count the zeros. That is exactly right. We're going to count the zeros. So for instance, in 100, we have 2 zeros, which means we have 2 tens. In 10,000, we have 4 zeros, so we have 4 tens. Now, here's a fun one. How many tens make up, this is, I think, 10 billion? 1,000, million, billion?
I know it.
Put this one in private chat. How many zeros make up 10 billion? Or how many tens? Sorry. Addie, that's correct. Jenica, that's correct. Janie, that's correct. Jessica, that's correct. Oh, I have a Jessica and a Jenica. That'll be interesting. I'm gonna say one of your names wrong at least 5 times, just so you know. It's not that many, Tristan.
I may have typed it in wrong, but I think I did it right.
Oh, sorry, Tristan. How many make up this number? So it's already here. This is 10 billion. So you're just counting the zeros here. So if we count the zeros, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the answer here is just 10.
But it's not 10 times 10.
No, it's 10.
There's 10 in it.
Times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10. But you just need to write out the 10 because that's how many zeros there are. Times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10. There, I think that's
Can we just do
correct.
10 to the power of 10?
What? Yeah, they're the same thing. But you can just write 10 because the question is how many 10s make this up. So we don't need that extra stuff. So there, that's how you would write this one. Get rid of all these little dots. Okay, so now we know how to quickly figure out how many multiples of 10 we have in, or how many 10s are in a multiple of 10. Now we're going to look at how to use this. Now, if 1,000 equals 10 times 10 times 10, then, that should be it, then 13 times 1,000 equals 13 times 10 times 10 times 10. The reason this is easier is because this tells us each 10, we're going to move the decimal place 1 to the right, right? So here, 13, we have a decimal right here. We're going to move it. Hold on. Whoops. I jumped ahead a little bit. Sorry. Let's solve 13 times 10 by moving the decimal. So how would we do that? We're going to move this 1 to the right. We have to add in a 0 because now we have this. So we have 130. All right. And then for the next one, now we're multiplying by 10 twice. So the first 10 we move it once, second 10 we move it twice. So now we got 13, 0, 0.
10 to the power of 2. Or
it is effectively 10 to the power of 2, yeah. And then this one, we're multiplying it by 10 3 times. So we're going to take the decimal, we're going to move it right once, twice, 3 times. So 0, 0, 0 gives us, what is that, 13,000?
Yes.
Now, instead of solving it with it all broken up, what is 13 times 1,000 by moving the decimal?
13,000.
Yep, it's the same thing. So here's the trick. What you do when you're multiplying by a multiple of 10 is you move the decimal to the right once for every 0, right? Because each 0 represents a power of 10. And each 10, you have to move the decimal 1 to the right. So you can just count the zeros and move the decimal that far. So 13 times 1,000, we move it 3 times. If we have 13 times, let's say, this number, 1 million, there we go. Then we would just move the decimal 6 times because there are 6 zeros. Yeah, Tristan?
Or what you can always do, that works too. That I do is take the 1 from in the very front and put the number that you're multiplying it by and put it where it is,
See,
in place of the 1. So
that is a good idea until we hit this next example.
okay.
So you can do that for the first one, right? I can just replace the 1 with a 312. But let's do it the actual way. So we have 312, take our decimal, 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So we have to add 3 zeros.
Yeah,
So
then it's still
312.
easy though. You just move it back.
You're right. But now
Like
this
before.
time, that doesn't work anymore, right? Because I can't just add zeros to the end of this and then say, okay, look, it's the same.
Oh, you move
That
the
doesn't
decimal
work.
place.
Yep,
Is
you have to move the decimal. So solve this one by moving the decimal. I want you guys to try it on your own really quick.
Oh, we get to do it? Yay.
Yep. So solve the next 2 on your own if you can. Just by moving the decimal. No calculators, no nothing. Brody, make sure you open up in the Google Classroom, there's an assignment that's multiples of 10. Open that up. It's a note document. You can follow along with what we're doing in class. I think that's right, Tristan. Addie, double check. How many times are you supposed to move that decimal? So these numbers that are really disgusting, right? Like 13.6400315 times 1 billion. Those are not numbers that normally you'd want to do without a calculator, right? But they're actually really easy to do by moving the decimal. So with this one, we're going to move it the number of zeros to the right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places to the right. Take our decimal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the right.
And what you get is 6.762.
3.762. But yep.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So this one we get 3.762.
I
Same
already
idea
know
on the
the
next one.
Next one.
But this one is a little bit tougher. We're going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 places to the right. So we take our decimal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we need to add 2 zeros. So we get 13,640,0315 with 2 zeros at the end. Putting in the commas is probably the hardest part of this one, to be honest. But there you go. It's like what? 13,640,031,500.
You have to put that in the commas, or
No, I
And
don't.
you
I
just,
don't
like-
care. I don't care if you put in the commas. I was just joking. Okay, how are we feeling about this?
easy.
Scale of 1 to 5. Put it in private chat.
Give me something harder.
Okay, those are mostly good numbers. For the 5 of you that answered, 7 of you that answered. Okay, well, we're going to make it a little bit tougher. So now we're going to divide by multiples of 10. But one nice thing about this is that we can just do the exact same thing, but in reverse. So instead of counting the decimals and counting the zeros and moving our decimal place that many spots to the right, we're going to count our zeros and move it that many spots to the left. So here, remember our decimal at whole numbers is at the end. We're going to move it 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So we go 1, 2, 3. Our decimal goes here. You get 0.312. Some of these are a little less fun, like for instance, this one, you're going to have a lot of zeros. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces to the left. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 zeros. So 0.12345678332. Now you might lose track of 0 once in a while, and that's mostly okay. But again, this is something that you can solve just by looking at the number of zeros. You don't have to do any actual math here. You're just counting and moving decimal places around. So I want you to try the last two on your own if you can. And then I'll go over them in just a second. Yeah, Tristan?
Did you realize that because of how much I love the lesson, I multiplied my answer by 10?
I did not. I didn't see your answer. Oh. In your, I get it. I get it now. Well played. So take a second, try these two on your own using the same strategy, and then I'll go over them in just a second. All right, so this one, can anybody tell me how many spaces am I going to move my decimal point to the left?
Wait, I didn't get to type my answer in. 1 second, like 1 second. Like I know the answer.
Fine. You're fine. Go ahead. I'm just asking people to tell me how many spaces I'm going to move the decimal.
9.
Correct, Tristan. So yeah, we have 9 zeros, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to move it 9 spaces to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So our decimal is going to be right here. And we'll get 0.3124566. We could, in theory, write out these 3 zeros, but they don't make a difference because this is after the decimal. So we're just going to leave them off and call it good right here. All right. Now this last one, again, how many spots am I going to move to the left? Not Tristan. Tristan, type it in private chat. But I'm pretty sure you've got it. Good, Charlotte.
7.
Yep, it's going to be 7. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to take this from right here. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are all zeros. That leaves us with 0.12345777303. Man, your math teacher's evil giving you all these crazy numbers. It's just a lot of stuff to write down.
I got my answer wrong. I forgot the decimal point.
You did forget a decimal point. All right. Now I think, if I remember right, that's effectively the last page that we've got. I'll give you all a little bit more time to make sure you've gotten this written down. The last page, yep. So on yours, for all of you, you have one slide that's like a homework page. It's just a couple more problems that are similar to this. You're not allowed to use a calculator. It should take you about 2 minutes. So once you finish those out, make sure you submit that to the Google Classroom, turn it in, and then you're free to go and have a good rest of your day with no homework. So hopefully that wasn't too terrible. It's probably a little bit boring, but tomorrow we're going to be looking at stuff that's a little bit more confusing. So make sure you're ready and here on time.